Hey guys, welcome to the gaming journey, and in today's video I'm going to share a guide on what to focus on as an early game player and maybe to a certain extent a mid game one as well that helped me get to this stage of the game in AFK journey. So let's get into it. Let's start off with the basics in terms of the heroes. There are 4 categories of heroes, which are the Maulers, the Graveborns, the Wilders and the Lightbearers. There are 2 more godlike categories which take quite a bit of grinding to get and are only very helpful when you have them up to Mythic Plus or more. They are the Celestials and the Hypogenes. You can get them in the guild store and the Stargaze wishing station, but it will take you a long time to level them up unless you're a big spender or a whale in the game. So I'm going to avoid getting into too much detail about them. So the Maulers consist of Antandra, Smokey, Coco, Odie, Brutus, Lumo, Reese, Shakir, Satrana, Seth, and Kruger. The Graveborns consist of Thorin, Cessia, Carolina, Viperion, Igor, Sylvina, Salazar, and Niru. The Wilders consist of Granny, Parissa, Eron, Ewan, Arden, Damien, Kafra, Laika, Brian, and Floribel. The Lightbearers consist of Corin, Merrily, Cassidy, Vala, Rowan, Atlanta, Temesia, Valen, Meriel, Lucius, Faye, Walker, Chippy, and Hammy. Now, these heroes are subcategorized into different groups such as support, rogue, mages, marksman, warrior, and tank. In terms of the most important categories out of the 6, or the ones to prioritize in leveling up their equipment, is, in my opinion, are the tanks, the marksmen, and support, followed by the warrior, mages, or rogues. You can follow any order you like in terms of your team dynamics and the heroes you use as such, but the best would be to prioritize the ones I've mentioned. I'll tell you why. So for your teams when battling the AFK stages, you need a tank, a support, and a marksman. Bear in mind, this isn't a fixed way of or one size fits all kind of way of playing the game, but this is what got me through it, so I'm sharing that. My team usually consisted of 2 tanks, 2 supports, and 1 marksman. So let's break down the best ones in those categories. In terms of the tanks, Thorin and Antandra are the best ones by far in terms of your tanks, who will get you through the game. Be it the challenge stages, the story modes, the arcane labyrinth, even against certain bosses. Lucius, Temesia, and Granny also help to a certain extent. Lucius in the early game when you don't have a Thorin or Antandra tends to be your main tank. The rest of the heroes in this category didn't do much for me. Now let's get into the support. The supports, Smokey, Coco, Rowan, Ewan. They are the best in terms of support. Though the best healers is Smokey due to his large AoE healing that he continuously supplies to the team. Coco is great in damage reduction and increasing your attack and speed as well. Coco also does a certain level of healing, but it's nothing compared to Smokey. Rowan is great with his potions that keep supplying you with energy for your heroes to crit and use their ults. He also does a certain level of healing, but it's not that much. Ewan uses her ult to heal the team in and around the arena, but you have to wait for her ult to heal, and if the team doesn't survive before she ults, it's not very helpful. Ewan is only helpful when you don't have any decent healers and support I mentioned earlier, but she is decent for early game players. If you get a Smokey and Coco, I would say you don't need anyone else. Later, as you progress through the game, getting a Rowan would help you with your second team battles. Now, the marksmen. They are the main DPS for your team. Cessia, Odie, Merrily. Cessia by far is the best in the early game and mid game stages. I got through all the stages on her shoulders. Her ult summons Mr. Carlisle, who basically does most of the damage to the enemies in the arena. As you level her up to Mythic Plus and more, she also binds the enemies along with her summoning of Mr. Carlisle. She is a must in your AFK Challenge teams to get through the levels. OD is amazing as well once you have enough copies of him to level up to Mythic Plus for your second teams or first teams depending on the breakup that you have. You can buy his copies from the store to help level him up faster. Merly is brilliant as well when you have her up to Mythic Plus for bosses and arena. But again, Mythic Plus, below that, she's not going to do much. I didn't use her much in the teams, but for future teams, she is a must and can be bought from the store as well. So this was my team composition, majorly through the stages of AFK Challenge. Briefly, I'd like to also explain why I didn't use much of the warriors, mages, and rogues. In the warrior category, other than Brutus, Corrin, and to some extent Kruger are decent heroes, but you need Corrin and Kruger to be higher level to do massive damage. And they are amazing in boss battles, not much in the AFK stages. Mythic level plus for Corrin in the end game will help you do crazy damage. He can be bought in the store like OD and Merry. Brutus is definitely a tank to use in your second team, though I didn't use him much other than when I had the 2-team battles. A lot of the players do use him in their main teams, but I didn't have the need for him as he dies very easily, though he has an invincibility ult where he doesn't take any damage for about 5 seconds. In the mages category, Parisa, Arden, Carolina are great heroes, but as I said before, you need to level them up to a decent level to do good damage. I used Parisa in my second teams as well because I got her up to Mythic. She's great as an AoE DPS in your team. Carolina I didn't get until I finished the stages, so I haven't really tested her out much. Similar for Arden, who again is great, but level him up only then he makes a difference. I didn't use either of them. In the rogues category, Iron, Vala, Shakir are good heroes. Iron is crazy once leveled up to Mythic Plus, but again, you need Mythic level for these heroes to not be squishy. Vala is great in terms of when you want to attack the backline of enemies who you can't get through to, but again, rarely used her. Shakir wasn't used much either, but can be good in boss battles. That sums up the heroes and their categories. Let's also discuss a little bit about positioning of your heroes, which help you beat the stages. It takes a bit of RNG when you're stuck on a certain stage. So now in terms of positioning, I usually have Thorin in the front with Antandra on his side and Smokey in the center, giving his healing, and Sissia on the right with Coco on the left, or you can swap it around and do it this way in terms of this formation. So this is usually my more offensive formation for the enemy, and I keep this when I battle the first time. Any stage that I do this is the formation that I do, and depending on my winning or losing that stage, then I change the formation, which is a more defensive formation that I try the second time around. If I don't pass a certain stage, is I move everyone a little back, close up on the formation so that the enemy team, depending on how they're charging at my team, closing in on my DPS or my healer, I try to close up my team and try to make it more close so that my tanks are holding them off while Sissia can do her crit and attack their backline DPS people and destroy them and then destroy the rest of the enemies. So there are other formations also where you can try an even more closed up formation where if Smokey is kept here, you can keep Thorin here and Antandra maybe here and Sissia even more closed up in the corner there, and try this formation. It's basically RNG which works for you and what doesn't work for you. So ultimately it's up to you and how you read the game and how the enemies play against you. So you have to basically keep a track of how the enemies are attacking your team and try and figure out a solution to attack them and safeguard your healer and your main DPS. That's basically it on how to get by in terms of positioning your team and getting through the stages. I'll show you a level in terms of how my team does. I don't know if I'll pass it, but it's still something to go with. This is the defensive formation that I usually use. And there you have it. That's how I get through it. Now let's break down the AFK Challenge Stages into sections. Till you reach about stage 100, 120, you are given very few XP books to level up your characters, which improves once you cross those stages. But post that, another issue arises, which is the hero essence. Now, depending on your stage clearance, you will get a certain amount of hero essence daily, which is amount to only being able to level up some of your heroes, not all. But to counter these shortfalls, I'd suggest focusing leveling up your marksman, tank, and support hero first, before the rest of your team. For example, I've always leveled up Sisia, then Thorin, then Smokey, then Antrandra, and then Coco, so that my offense and defense are solid, with my healing to clear the difficult stages. In the beginning, I used to level each hero one level at a time, but then I realized it's better to level each hero 10 levels at a time before I went to the next one, as leveling up one hero a single level increased their attack, speed, etc. a lot, so 10 levels did way more for them. That's one way I dealt with the hero essence shortfall, but I'd still level up at least 1 or 2 heroes a day, so within 2 days my entire team would level up, so I could pass the stages and even the story quests. Post 695, the AFK stages change where you need to field 2 teams for every 10th stage. So 700, 710, 720, etc. were all 2 team battles. In that regard, my teams would be divided into first team, which would consist of Thorin, Sisia, Parisa, Rowan, and another hero which I felt would work against the enemy. At times, it was Lucius or Granny or Viron, whoever seemed best to work in that scenario. And my second team would only consist of maulers such as Brutus, Antrandra, Smokey, Coco, Odie, or depending on the situation, any other hero that worked best. As I mentioned earlier, Odie is brilliant once you get him leveled up, and he works as your main DPS for your second team in the stages. He's a similar carry DPS like Sisia is for your first team. It takes a bit of RNG to get it right, but for me, it worked out most of the time. Also, another thing the developers did was add the final push, which helps double the amount of hero essence you get. So I'm not sure which level it shows up in, but for me it came during level 890. So my heroes leveled up much faster. My entire team would level up 10 levels each day as compared to 2 days to level them up, which also helped me advance faster. Okay, so we spoke about the heroes and the teams. Now briefly, let's talk about the artifacts that helped me more in various stages. So the ones that helped the most in the early game was the Awakening artifact, Star Shard artifact, and the Iron Wall artifact. As you level up and get better support, the Awakening artifact falls short, and the Star Shard and the Iron Wall help a lot. In the later stages, when you unlock the Confining spell, it becomes quite crucial for you and takes a spot from the Iron Wall artifact. So the two best ones I used till the end would be the Confining spell and the Star Shard spell. Even when I had 2 team battles, I'd use either for either team and they would get me through it. I did briefly use the Enlightening spell to buff my raremost hero in certain stages, but that was rare. The Blazing spell artifact made no difference whatsoever to me and was never used. So that sums up the guide to the AFK challenge stages and how I completed 1125 stages with the heroes I have and what best teams I used to get here. It's been about 48 to 49 days of playing this game and it took me little over a month to clear all the stages. I hope this video has helped and will be helpful to more people joining the game who want to know how to get through the stages. If you want a similarly detailed video on other battle modes or stages of the game, please do let me know in the comments down below. I've also made videos on the Legend Trial and Arcane Labyrinth you can watch to get a better understanding of heroes to use. That sums it up. Hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.